Still to this day, my brother just graduated high school a few weeks ago, and still to this day, his grades were checked. Everybody's grades were checked. So, unfortunately, it's not these kids' faults. I mean, yeah, they're lazy, but like, what are you supposed to do when all you got to do is tell your mama, well, she failing me, and the school board is going to accommodate that parent? Like, it's crazy, y'all. We should be very scared for our new nurses, our new doctors, our new everybody. These colleges are going to have to start lowering their requirements. They're going to have to start lowering the fact, or just lowering everything, because the way that stuff is going now, the amount of kids that are going to come into these schools and they cannot read, they cannot write, they cannot do anything without AI. We should be scared. We should really be scared.
I'm very scared.
I'm going to let her keep playing. I'm giving all praises to Yahweh by Shem Yahweh Shai, by Shem HaKodash, and double honors to our apostles and elders here at Great Millstone. Peace and blessings to the Lord's hopefully elect. So I just finished watching Elder Apostle Kabar's lesson titled Paranomia, the Porteneu of Esau's End. And the point of his lesson was, he's speaking on current events, and what's happening currently in the event is that there's a lot of AI that's taking over a lot of people's jobs and a lot of people getting laid off. And he's highlighting how videos and movie videos that was done back in the 80s basically foreshadowed AI. And, when they do those movies and those shows like that, truthfully, when the director, or whoever makes that movie, they're trying to spread the warning and the message behind it. Like Minority Report, iRobot, The Matrix. They're trying to spread the message behind it. But as you can see, it's actually happening. So, like Elder Apostle Kabar was touching on, what's happening today is that the Lord, this man is trying to replace people altogether. So the Lord is going to have to come back soon, because, if we're left to these devices, as scripture says, no flesh shall be saved. So, that's what he's talking about. And he's talking about how basically Esau, Edom in the comment section is afraid because they could see their society collapsing. Everything's coming to an end. And that's true. So I just wanted to kind of chime in on what's happening currently. I saw this video earlier put up by TJ Life Lessons. She titled Former Teacher Speaks Out and I'm Scared. Exactly. You know how many teachers come out every single day, either quitting their jobs or just showing what's going on in the classroom? This intentional dumbing down by the Board of Education, because I did a lesson on it, and I also got some quotes. I may pull them up, but the founders of the Board of Education was that they basically let it be known from the beginning that this is the point they want to get to. They want to get to a point where they stupefy the people, they dumbify the people, and they want the people to lack in critical thinking skills and unable to read. They want people unable to think, so that they will have no opposition in the future. Less people who have creativity, because Esau Edom, he's the harbinger of death. So his whole goal is to bring forth death, and the opposite of death is life, and he wants to oppose life. Part of why society gets to where it gets to, and what makes us all unique and different, is our ability to be creative, to come from within, the spirit, and bring forth, create, and all those things. And Esau Edom wants to kill that. He wants to kill that, so that nobody will be, you could say, smart enough or creative enough to oppose his future plans and his authority. It's all done intentionally, and it's all done on purpose. So no teaching and you could say the school systems, that's not going to be a priority. If this was a righteous society, teachers would be getting paid the most, okay, and the education system would be like number one priority. But it's not. It's done like this intentionally. They really want to make the people dumb as much as they possibly can, and don't teach them how to save money. Don't teach them about economy. Just teach them to just listen and follow orders, and so that they won't be smart enough to try to come up against us or oppose us or any ideas. We just keep all the knowledge to ourselves. That's the whole point. But there's a how do you say, there's a drawback, you see, because this wicked plan that Esau Edom is creating is actually not going to work the way he think it's going to work. See, that's the beauty of it, because he thinks that if we just create this gap and we just have the super rich and just the working poor, then we can rule the world. If we can force people to just work and be slaves forever, we own all the property. If we own everything in the world, we can monitor everybody's movement. If we can make sure that in the schools they learn about LGBT, transgenderism, and they'll learn that before they learn how to save money and all these things, we can make sure that the people stay in a low state, mental, physical, educational state, and we just reign on the earth with our with all the knowledge and the wealth and everything like that, and we have robots do this and all that, and they just work for us forever. That's not gonna work. It's not gonna work, and it's thus saith the Lord. But what I want to say is that, like, this method, right? It's intentionally in the school system. It's intentionally making the kids, they're intentionally, you can say, holding these kids back. They're intentionally trying to dumbify the Generation Z, so that they can move forward with their plan. This is exactly what they want. But the drawback is the generation that you want to control or to try to make dumb, so to speak, still has to go out and function in your society. And since they're not doing it, since people don't want to work, and there's just a shift in a lot of things. You don't have people to do certain jobs. The jobs such as masonry and sheet metal bending, and all those unique special trades. Esau Edom took that out so people don't learn. But in the long run, it's going to hurt your society, because now this is why you can't have people to do certain things. You don't have people to work these important jobs. You don't have these people because they're not qualified, because they can't read or they can't spell. So it's all gonna backfire. But let me keep letting her talk.
And to be honest, I've been that way for a while now, because I saw it coming. The perpetual dumbing down of thinking, beginning with emails, then instant messages, then everything, just the technology faster and faster. But by the same token, us not using our minds, our brains to think, to analyze, I saw it years ago. And it's all fun and games. Because somebody said, y'all act like this is the first generation that didn't want to do papers and blah, blah, blah. It's completely different. Yeah, we were lazy. We didn't want to do papers too either. But guess what? We did. Because like she said, our parents wasn't having that bull crap at all. And we could try to complain to the teacher, but that would be a shutter downer. And it's all fun and games until the doctors and nurses are using ChatGPT and AI to do your medical procedures.
Yeah, she got something else that she said I want to let play, but that is true. Like, there's videos now of it's happening. Even lawyers are doing it. Okay, you got lawyers are just using AI and ChatGPT, because there's so many records of that, because the judges will be reading and they'll be like, what the heck is this? This stuff don't make sense. And they can analyze, like, oh, you use ChatGPT. So a lot of these people in these so-called skilled professions, they have just been getting by not actually doing, you could say, the work, so to speak. So people are slowly becoming less and less qualified for these positions, and these supposed to be important positions to keep your society running. But if it's even happening in the courtrooms, okay, it's even happening in like legislation and whatnot. These, you seen the little videos, right, of I forgot what it was, but when they went back on the what do they call it, where they hired you because of your race with our people, I forgot what they called it, but they were they were interviewing some people and saying, what does this mean? What does that mean? And they're like, I don't know. And they're like, you basically, I think one of them was over, what was that? Air traffic control. And he didn't even know anything about planes, basically, or something like that. So, and they're like, how are you even get this job? DIE, I think that was called DIE, yeah, DIE hiring or something like that. But they was interviewing these people, and they in these high security, important roles, and they don't really even know anything about their profession. They just probably know how to do 1, 2, or 3 things. You know what I'm saying? So, like she said, it is an intentional dumbing down. But the problem is, it's not going to work how Esau think it works. It's like, if we're going to intentionally make the people stupid, all right, and withhold resources, withhold the knowledge from them, because we don't want them to use their brains, we don't want them to think, we just want them to listen and pick up this and put this over there. It's not going to work the way you think it's going to work, because at the end of the day, you still need a society, a generation of people who has to, in some way function for you to so-called live your society to run your society. And you're intentionally hurting your own society, all for the sake of greed, all to try to maintain superiority. And that's another thing, greed, right? You're planned obsolescence. That means they design things to fail intentionally for the sake of making something new every year. So every year is a new car, every year is a new model car, is a new phone, all this stuff. Changing stuff for the simple, changing just to change, just because it's a new year. That's backing up, because now they got cars sitting on the lot that's been there since 2013. Nobody wants it, but yet they're going to keep trying to make new every single year. They and the greed on top of it, all these layoffs that's happening, half of these layoffs is just because of greed. They want more money. With all the layoffs that's been happening, if you watch certain channels, they actually pull up that they laying off thousands of people, even though last year they just made record-breaking profits. So they made more money last year, but they still going to lay off people this year just because they want more money. But that greed is going to trickle down, and it's going to hurt your society and bring your society down, because now you got no workers. If people can't work, how are they supposed to pay you? You got people in debt, how are they supposed to pay? They can't pay. So things going to get backed up. People going to get kicked out their houses. Nobody going to be able to inhabit those houses. So you can't find a buyer. So now the bank's stuck with it, and they're like, shit. Well, it's like, well, that's what you get. You're intentionally hurting your own society. Also, you could try to maintain in a position of being Lucifer, because, Lucifer just means light bearer. So, we're going to make the super rich, and everybody else is just slaves. Yeah, well, guess what? That happened in the Roman Empire, and that's exactly why it failed.
Okay? It's all fun and games. And, like I said, last year, I worked for the Dallas Independent School District in the administration for 1 month. That's all I could take. And I wasn't even in the classroom. But when I saw things I saw and read the things I read, seeing the teachers and the staff have no support, and these kids running amok, not learning nothing, I'm like, oh no, I can't be a part of it. Can't be a part of it. Nope. I can't. And again, but you got people, going back and forth about the little Miss Shirley, and it's funny. And I'm just using an example since she is, popular, going around. These kids can do every TikTok dance. These kids can sing every rap song. These kids got Jordans, all these kind of things. Can't read, can't write. Don't know arithmetic. No emotional control.
This is what Ivy League universities you can get into with a 3.6 GPA.
No emotional control. No comprehension. No attention span of a gnat. Because I see it in the workforce. Thank God I'm retired. What do you mean, Annie? Because when people would send emails using the same type of broken English or broken speech that they send in a text message. Where did they do that at? Oh, now. And for a while, I couldn't understand why some of my friends would continue to send, write out the text messages, not breaking up the spelling. I get it now. You gotta use your brain. They don't want to write 5 sentences, but they will send you a grammatically incorrect dissertation via text message. And she is right. Everybody failing them. But it starts real little. Like, oh, excuse me, Miss Shirley's age. I'm so glad that I kept my child a child. Again, mothers, we're the first, or their parents. Box of rock parents. Never did I ever believe that I would see where there would be a special category of leave for teachers who are getting beat up by children and or their parents. But these gonna be the people. PlayStation 5, whatever you call it, all that kind of stuff. Ocular, whatever. Chased out of her own home. And that's why you had.
This is why I wanted to say. You hear stories like these all the time. What she's about to say.
Situations like recently, where the mother and grandmother the mother was being chased out of her own home by her teenage daughters with knives because she turned the internet off.
Yeah, that's another thing you got to deal with. They got no emotional control. These kids are attached to their phones. So if you take any of that away, they will lose their minds. You saw the video of what that 12-year-old did once his mother took his phone from him, and she came back and that dude destroyed that house. This is what happens now. These kids, they don't. And you know what? Let me pull up those quotes about the school district. So here's 3 or 4, and I did a lesson on it, but so this is from Horace Mann. He says, Edomite. These are all part of the Board of Education. From the beginning, when they established the Board of Education, this is what their goal was. Okay, the goal was to control the mind, control what people learn, control history, control the narrative. He says, we who are engaged in the sacred cause of education are entitled to look upon all parents as having giving hostages to our cause. This is John Dewey. He says, if the public schools can keep the children preoccupied throughout the day with sports after school and homework in the evening, the parents will have less than an hour a day with their children, and the families and the Christian church's influence over them could be broken in about a generation. And don't you see that happening now? And so they already did the math on you. And it is the truth. When you do the math, if you send your kids off to daycare, all right, mathematically, they spend more time with someone else than they do with their parents each week. So they're basically being raised by someone else. Same with the kids at the school. You send your kids away for 8 hours, okay? And the parents today, they don't really care about they just need. School to them is they just somewhere to babysit. Just somebody take them for 8 hours so I can go to work or whatever. And yeah, so they already did the math, and the math is okay, so you actually spend more time in the company of someone else than their own parents. So that means we could teach them whatever we want. Hence why you have a Generation Z. They're all gay and lesbians and trans, because they got them in the schools, man. Another quote by John Dewey. He says, there is no God and there is no soul. Hence, there is no need for the props of traditional religion. With dogma and creed excluded, then immutable truth is dead and buried. There is no room for fixed and natural law or permanent moral absolutes. So you just know with somebody like that on the Board of Education that you're not going to get the truth. Okay. From H.L. Mencken, he said, the aim of public education is not to spread enlightenment at all. It is simply to reduce as many individuals as possible to the same safe level, to breed citizenry, to put down dissent and originality. These are what these guys said. And they're all a part of the Board of Education Foundation. And the last one is a Joan Gilplead Fitch. He said, education should aim at destroying free will so that after pupils are thus schooled, they will be incapable throughout the rest of their lives of thinking or acting otherwise than as their school's masters would have wished. So there you have it. There you have it. It's the book of Isaiah chapter 19. The burden of Egypt. Behold, the Lord rideth upon a swift cloud, and shall come into Egypt, and the idols of Egypt shall be moved at his presence, and the heart of Egypt shall melt in the midst of it. And I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, and they shall fight every one against his brother, and every one against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom. That's happening now. And it says, and the spirit of Egypt shall fail in the midst thereof. And that's what's happening now. Okay, the spirit is failing. Because like they're saying, the next generation is supposed to, you could say, take over. But with the wicked elite, because of their greed and their intentional dumbing down of society and trying to intentionally dumb down the children, that's your children, okay? This generation Z, they're doing it on purpose. The spirit is failing because the problem with that is it's not going to work the way you think it's going to work. Because at the end of the day, you still need these people to carry on. How you going to have, because you know those hospitals is big business. They owned by the so-called Jews and etc. But how you going to keep that running when everybody you hire don't actually know the job or didn't actually study? Everybody just passed by. How you going to keep that running? That's going to fail. That's going to fail your businesses and etc. And then you're all going to be complaining that we there's a demand of this. There's a demand of every position. Every position there's a demand of. Why? Because that skill set, those skill sets is leaving. And this is going to cause the society to crumble. All the while these wicked, rich, wicked elite think that they're just going to sit on top with all the wealth and all the money and everybody else is going to be slaves. No, it's going to cause your society to crumble, you fucking morons. Because that just goes to show you his idea isn't for you to thrive. They don't want you to thrive. They don't want you to prosper. They don't want you to be creative. They don't want you to think. They just want you to work. Be a slave. That's it. It says, and the spirit of Egypt shall fail in the midst thereof, and I will destroy the counsel thereof. And they shall seek to the idols and to the charmers and to them that have familiar spirits and to the wizards. You see, so they're going to try to, because you can't fix this now. This is how you know the society is over with. How do you reverse this? You can't. There ain't going to be no, okay, well, this is Gen Z, so wait till we see what Gen Alpha. No, Gen Alpha is going to be in the kingdom. Because if you just look, okay, just look at your generation. Look at how they're being treated. And I got another clip. I'm not going to play it, but there's a video of this guy asking his son and his nephew, and they both in high school. He just now figuring out that they can't spell. So he giving them a good yelling. And he's telling them, he said, spell philosophy. They can't spell philosophy. They put F-A-L. Both of them was trying. They can't spell it. And they had this look of, really, they just had this blank stare. They were just look at them in fear. And because they couldn't answer, they couldn't spell philosophy. They couldn't spell cute. They couldn't even spell the number 2. Two spelled 3 ways. They couldn't spell either one right. He said, spell 2. You could spell 2 3 ways. Spell it. They couldn't spell it. They put the number 2 and then O. They couldn't do it. Now, use logic. If this is the generation that's going out, okay, how the hell do you think the society is supposed to get turned right side up? It's not. It's going to come to an end. It's going to come to an end because of Esau Edom and his greed, okay? And that's why this spirit is failing. In the Babylon, how are you the greatest country in America? The Lord has failed your spirit. Your spirit is failing. Your generation can't even read. And when I say generation, I'm talking about Generation Z. They can't even read, bro. So how are you the greatest country when your generation can't comprehend, can't sit still, can't put the phone down for 5 minutes? Can't type, can't spell. How are you supposed to prosper? This place is at its end, okay? Because, you know, like the Apostle Gabar was talking about with the whole AI and seeing, you just see it all. It's just over with, bro. Ain't no future here. And if your children are grown, you're blessed. Okay, because if you got to bring your children up in these schools now, I know it's a pain. And I know I got a niece, right? Niece and nephew with my niece in school. We love her to death, and we doing our absolute best to keep her out of public schools. We got her in this good private, but man, you know, it's getting expensive here. But she, you know, we're doing our very best because we're trying to, you know, keep her out. But I understand if you don't have access, you know, you got to send them to the school. Then what? And then they're going to try to teach them the LGBT, all of those things. This is just hell. This is hell. You know, so if your children are grown, you're blessed. Or if you don't have children, you're blessed. Okay? And if your children are going through it, then prayers with you, you know? Because this is hell, man. This place got to come to a fucking end, but it get going. And the Egyptians will I give over to the hand of a cruel Lord. We believe that to be Donald Trump, a.k.a. Nero in the reincarnation. And their fierce king shall rule over them, saith the Lord and the Lord of hosts. And that's exactly what he's doing. He's shutting everything down. I just saw yesterday, I didn't even know, but they shut Job Corps down. And Job Corps is actually a place for teenagers to go and live and learn the skill and finish school at the same time. They shut that down. Trump shut it down. And them people are pissed. Just type it in. Type in Job Corps. Those people are pissed. So again, that's attacking the youth. Those are what you call good, quote unquote, good programs, and he's taking them down. This man is the devil. It says, and the water shall fail from the sea, and the river shall be wasted and dried up. Okay. So this is the Lord bringing these plagues to Egypt, which America is known as Egypt in the scriptures, as well as Babylon the Great. But I'm going to jump down. Verse 14, the Lord have mingled a perverse spirit in the midst thereof, and they have caused Egypt to err in every work thereof, as a drunken man staggereth in his vomit. So you see, the Lord is just strategically attacking this place. He's also mingled a perverse spirit in the midst thereof. Look, it just had that. We had this tornado here in St. Louis, right? Guess what? Guess what didn't go off? The tornado siren. And they come to find out it was some big fat LGBT, whatever the heck he or she is, that's in charge of that. And now he or she is under investigation. It's just like they did with the fire department in California. I think they had those fire hydrants with rainbow color, but they ain't had no water in them. And you're gonna find out that one of the LGBTs is a supervisor over. So they're just hiring these people in these positions because of their sexuality, but yet these people aren't doing their job. So this whole place is just at an end, you know? So even when they do try to so-called do the right thing, that's what you got to realize. The right thing to do won't happen because it's Babylon the Great. You know, times I've been on a job and it's like common sense should say the right thing should be this, but it's not going to happen. And you got to remember, this is Babylon. Everything's backward. If everything worked how it was supposed to work, the society would be on top. But since the Lord's bringing it down, you can see it. You just see it. Everybody just sees it, man. It's over with. That's why that woman's talking about everybody should be scared. Because it's over, man. Everybody see that it's over. It says, neither shall there be any work for Egypt, which the head or tail, branch or rush may do. Yeah, and your head is like the leaders as well as the tail. And you need a middle class to keep a society going. You need a functioning sect of middle class to keep your society going. You need that. You need creative thinkers. You need people who are innovative. You need people, you know, this is how you get your society going. But if you're too fucking greedy and you just want to steal, you're going to cause your own society to, Esau did this to his fucking self. And now there's no work. And there's no work, as Ecclesiastes 12 says, a sign of the end. When your economy starts to fail, here it is, your dollar's collapsing, you're in mountains and mountains of debt, everything's coming to an end, inflation, all this other stuff. Yet you're gonna keep making new stuff every year. You're gonna keep doing this every year, but you don't even, you want to stupefy the people so people can't look. The kids can't even tell time on the clock anymore. They can't do it. They can't do it. All this is happening, and you think you're gonna establish this Elysium or this Amalekite utopia. Insane, man. It says, in that day, Egypt shall be like unto women, and it shall be afraid and fear because of the shaking of the hand of the Lord Yahweh of hosts, which shaketh over it. So this place is just headed for the end, man. Just headed for the end. So this is more so like a commentary, just speaking on current events and what's happening. Just another sign that we're at the end, man. The public school system is a good example that Generation Z definitely is going to be the last generation to actually, go on long. Gen Alpha is gotta be in the kingdom of heaven. It's gotta be. So with that, shalom.